So today what we're going to talk about is the end of night process. Now what we kind of refer to, as we've talked about in our design plan and as we kind of discuss things, end of night to us is after you cut off orders, everything that happens from that point on. How are we going to get the invoices from where they came in to where you need to print them and pick them, and then at the end, what we call finalizing them is post. So this was the workflow that we talked about before. I made a couple revisions on that from some of your other design meetings and walkthroughs. So orders are coming in the system. We've already dealt with that in another walkthrough, so we're not going to talk about how orders get in, but orders are in the system. They're transferring over to invoice through a process that runs on the server called, the product is from Blue Moon. And back orders, we had previously, they'll be auto-released, but you guys have elected to manually release your back orders. And those will be transferring over to invoices. And that's happening all through the day. So you might have multiple invoices in here for a customer. You might have invoices from multiple orders that came in today for tomorrow. You might have had orders in there that were entered 3 days ago, but the requested ship date is tomorrow, so they will be transferring. You might have back orders that someone's manually pushing out in multiple times during the day. So all of those are going to equal all the invoices that are sitting out there ready for us to do something with. So on today's walkthrough, we're going to talk about some last end of night checks that are different than like your hold checks that we talked during your AR walkthrough. And then we're going to talk about how we get started with our end of night processes. Routing and RoadNet. We're still waiting on your RoadNet test environment, but I'm going to still talk you through that process so that when we get that environment, you'll kind of have a concept of what we're doing. And then we're going to talk about printing pick tickets. We're going to talk about consolidating invoices, printing those invoices, and then posting them. Is there any questions on the agenda for today or the overall workflow of what we're going to walk through?
Go ahead, Corrie.
Okay, great. I'm going to get out of this, and I'm going to go into your system. This is all on your system. If you're unsure how to log in to GP, make sure you get with Mike or your IT group that can help you get to your Infusion login and homepage. One of the things Matt's going to do following this meeting is add you these quick links and some of the folder things that I'm going to go over here to the left-hand side, if you can see where my mouse is, where it says end of night and pick reports. These, we're going to spend most of our time right here in this area and on these two over here. So Matt has a list of people that he's going to add that to their home screen today, tomorrow at the latest. Now, a couple things, I'm not for sure whose job this will be. I think it'll be probably Mike more in your area or your credit department. But there's a couple things that we do to start the end of night process before you give the green light to this end of night workflow. The first one we've already talked about in other meetings, and that's to check your holds. What's on hold? Is there, anything you need to work on before you actually give them the green light, similar to what you do today. The other one is an exception report we have out in the system. I'm going to go to my Infusion Reports folder. You should have a shortcut to this in the same area of where you have a shortcut to go to Infusion on your desktop. And I'm going to go into Back Office, and there's a report called Exception Report. And I'm going to choose to change my parameters, and it gives me a date option here. I'm going to check it. Now, for you, this report will actually be auto-emailed out when we go live every so often towards the end of the day. But for now, for testing, I'm just going to pick one. I think I got lucky on this date. Oh, you think it was the 27th? No, 26th is what I have. So you can see on this order exception report, it gives me orders from, it's comparing what was in Inventive's tables. We actually go out and query Inventive SQL tables, and we look for those same order numbers inside Infusion. If we don't find them, we tell you that there is a possibility that these orders have not been imported. Now, the reason they have not been imported could be because a file got missed, or if this is like at 2:10, now this is 2 days apart, by the way, so this would not be an excuse for this. But if we were in a real life scenario, and I was running this on the 26th at 2:10, and this was just submitted to us at 2:05, that probably means you need to wait a few more minutes because it just hasn't been imported. Our map runs about every 5 minutes. Inventive releases orders to us about every 5 minutes. And then they'll transfer from order over to invoice about every 5 minutes. So there's probably about a 10-minute window sometimes from the time the sales rep would have hit submit to the time that it might come into Infusion. So this will let you know, are all the orders that people have submitted inside Infusion. Does that make sense?
Yes, but I'm wondering, why would I want to run this throughout the later afternoon or whatever? Why
Sure.
would I just not want to wait till
End of day?
the end?
Well, I'll tell you one good reason why. So if there was a problem like at 10 in the morning, for some reason the sales order map turned off, or some reason somebody went in the back end and like accidentally removed a file that didn't come over, or Inventive has stopped sending it, like something's wrong on the Inventive server. When you get this report and it has information in it that's within outside of like a 10 to 15 minute window, it's a great time to raise the red flag to say, hey, somebody needs to check the Inventive server. Somebody needs to check to make sure the map is on, or blue, well, it'll be the map is on. And you can do that. If you wait till the very end of the night and you haven't been sending orders for a long while, it could delay your nighttime process. So that would be my suggestion as to why. There's other indicators, like you should see that your order stack isn't growing through the day. That would be a key indicator too. But sometimes people aren't as observant, and this kind of brings their attention to it.
Now, did you say that we run this, or this gets auto-emailed to us?
You can do both. It can be, we typically suggest it gets auto-emailed at certain times of the day. But if for some reason you knew people ran a little late, and instead of waiting for the next half hour that this emails out, or hour, or whatever we set up, Jamie and Matt will work with you on a time schedule. You can run it manually too, located in the back office folder. Good. Any questions on exception report?
While in a conference, to hear the caller count, press star 2. To control on-hold beeps, press star 3. For this help message, press star 4. To access listen-only modes, press star 5. To mute or unmute your phone, press star 6. To set entry and exit tones, press star 8. To report an audio issue by sending a 60-second recording for analysis, press star 0.
Are you guys there? Are you there?
Yeah, we're here.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We got a message on our side, and she went on and on and on, so I apologize.
No problem.
Okay, so exception report. Any questions on that one?
No, we're good.
Okay, good. The next thing we're going to look at is, so if all of the orders now have come in from Infusion, your next step is to check if all of the orders has transferred over from on the services from Blue Moon. So what happens on a separate server, just like I looked at in the Visio workflow, is that we have a service running on your server that transfers that order over to an invoice. And if it has to create a back order, it will create a back order at that time as well. So that's happening all through the day. When orders come into the system, it looks for anything going for tomorrow that is not on hold, and it will transfer it over to an invoice. That process is held on the Blue Moon server. When you are done for the day, and cutting off orders, you want to make sure to turn the Blue Moon server off, so that way if any sales reps do submit orders after your cutoff, the orders will come into the system, but they won't transfer and move over. The reason we suggest that versus what you kind of more typically do now, which is you cut off orders coming into your system from Inventive, is that we would suggest that so in case that order is in the system, so somebody knows. And if by chance someone says, it's okay, release that one, you could do that manually, or someone in the back office could do that manually, versus somebody having to turn back on the map, turn back on this, etc., etc. So to turn Blue Moon off, you will have whoever's job this will be will have a little shortcut that will open to this Blue Moon server and have saved the credentials for the Blue Moon entry login. So I'm just going to hit connect. I'm going to type in my Blue Moon password, which we'll give to whoever's job it is to turn this off.
You might want to have a comment. No, that's fine. But I mean,
and it will open to a screen like this. And there's one shortcut here I should have added. Let me just add that real quick. Oh, well, it is on here. There's just nothing in there. Okay, so it'll open to this screen. And if you notice, if you can look at my mouse, every now and then you're going to see it flicker. Every 5 minutes, and really every 2 minutes, is when it's checking out there in order to see if there's orders going. And there's a service running that makes the screen flicker. On your desktop here, there will be a stack of paper. If there are any orders that Blue Moon is still working on, but it has not yet transferred, the stack of paper will be called, look here, Blue Moon should transfer today, or Blue Moon should transfer tomorrow. The stack of paper will look just like this. It's orders that are waiting to go. You wouldn't want to turn it off if there's still orders in there, because that means orders have come in, but you haven't waited for the time. Again, it's usually about 5 minutes, but for it to go over from order to invoice. When that stack is clear, then you're ready and you feel certain all your orders are in from Inventive. You're ready to turn this off so that no orders sneak in after you've started your picking process. So I'm going to hit on my keyboard, Control S, S as in Sam. It'll come up with a box that says stop transfer, yes or no. We want to answer yes to this. Now all that does is stop the transfer process. Once that's done, then we're just going to close out of GP here, out of Infusion. Now, if you forgot to hit Control S and you tried to close out of GP, it will give you a message that says processes are running and you can't exit. So that's your key to say, oh yeah, I forgot Control S. So then you close it, and then you can just X out on the Blue Moon server. Sorry, I've got a lot of servers up. And I'm just going to hit the X here, which will just disconnect me. In the morning, someone has to open the Infusion on the server so that the transfer process can begin again whenever you're ready to start transferring orders into the system. Any questions on the Blue Moon process?
Yeah, do we have to wait for Blue Moon to finish doing its thing, or can we do like a manual conversion?
You mean transfer, like if you had some orders come in late?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, do I have to sit there now, or I shouldn't put it that way, I don't want to sound, but
yeah.
Do I have to wait now for Blue Moon to do its thing for the next 5 minutes or so, or can I just do something to immediately make that happen?
If there were orders out there, it's going to be quicker for you to wait a 5-minute window and it do all of them, because it does it lightning fast. So it would be quicker for you just to wait 5 minutes and then it will be done. And you'll see that little stack of paper go away. So in your normal practices, yes, you should. But if you have turned off Blue Moon or you know there's a late order coming, but you want to go ahead and turn it off so others don't sneak in, like you're making an exception, go ahead and turn it off, and then most definitely you can manually transfer those orders to invoices.
All right, but if I wanted everything, I'm better off just waiting.
You are. Yep.
Okay.
The
other thing is good.
Yeah, good. Yep, and I think we do manual transfer. Did you walk through that in your sales order, Jamie? Yeah. So your walkthrough on sales order, we showed how to manually transfer. It's the same exact process, but definitely as you guys look at that, let us know and we can go over that again.
Okay.
The last kind of check that you can do, this is optional. You don't have to do this, but it's usually a popular thing to do, is to look at duplicate lines in your system. Duplicate lines of invoices, meaning that there is an open invoice in the system with the same exact product, with the same exact quantity in the system that you might want to look at. So the reason that might be is if a sales rep double punched an order, or more popular, I usually have a customer called it into the back office and the sales rep entered it. This would show you if there is anything out there for the same product that looks suspicious. And I notice we have dollar signs there. We need to get rid of those. So that's a formatting thing on our side. So anyway, in our case, we have quite a few duplicates out there right now because we have been testing and we keep using the same order file. So this is a great example of some that looks suspicious out there. Any questions on that?
No.
Okay. So far what I've done is, and again, whoever's job this is, you've gotten the green light from the credit department that all the holds have been resolved or staying like they're staying. Someone has checked the exception report to know all inventive orders have come in and are successfully into the system. You have went over to Blue Moon and you have stopped anything from moving to an order to an invoice without a human involved. And you have checked to see if there's any suspicious orders out there with duplicate line quantities. The next step that we're going to start really starts our little numbered list here, and we flow into our whole process of our end of night. Now, what we do for ease of use is we number these quick links, because literally all you're going to do is follow 1 through 11, well, 12, excuse me, 1 through 12 on your steps, and that is exactly what you need to do for the night. Some of these are even replicated because we suggest you hit them in different parts of your night. So it's the same exact window or it's the same exact report, but you're going to see it twice because we suggest you do it at 2 different times. But we want you to follow literally step 1 through 12. Now, just as a side note, because I do a lot of the nighttime support, I don't have memorized your steps for the end of the night versus another distributor's steps, which are numbered differently possibly. So we don't necessarily know you're having trouble with step 3 and what step 3 is. So just make sure you say what the words are as well in that process. I'm good, but I'm not that good. This first step on your quick links schedule here is called your replenishment report. Now, you can run this multiple earlier in the night. You can run it. It runs a cumulative, and so you can run it at 3 o'clock. You could run it, at 5 o'clock. A lot of my distributors run the replenishment just prior to cutoff, and that way that they can get the nighttime crew going while they're doing their routing process. Now, you guys have 2 replenishment reports. Right now, we only have 1. I know we're working on firming up the other, so that's a part of your open item list for this meeting. So when I click this right now, it's just going to pull up 1 single report, and I'm going to show you how to use this box. If you have 2 reports, we can auto print it for tomorrow to a printer, so you don't have to click 2 different reports and do the same thing. Now, whenever you pull up a report, this is what we call a data link viewer. It's a crystal report. that is just asking you always this question. Use the save parameters, which I'll show you what those are in a second, or change them. All that's saying, the parameter in this field and all of the other reports I'm going to show you is the date. So right now it's at 6:28. I'm going to move this to 6:29. So I'm going to check this box and I'm going to hit OK. And then it's going to ask me what date I want to do it for. Now, again, if you have 2 of those replenishment reports and every time you always want it for tomorrow, then we can make that step happen for you automatically. So when you hit it, it'll say it's for tomorrow and print it to a printer. You also have a manual reports folder I'll show you to where you can run it to pick a different date. And sometimes people do that during holiday weirdness, where they want to pick for a different date than what's tomorrow. So I'm going to hit OK, and I'm going to hit OK this way. And here's a replenishment report we have. It looks a little funky right now because we don't have a lot of items in there, but I know you guys are looking at those samples that Matt gave to you. So you can look at this on screen. You can also print it, or again, we can go directly to your printer. Any questions on replenishment report? Okay. Load summary report is the next report that we suggest you run after cutoff. So replenishment you can run right near your cutoff or late afternoon to get your nighttime people going. Your load summary is to give you a summary of all the stops divided by route, and this is their default stop and route, so that you can see what you're kind of doing. Now, I'm going to run this to screen. You're going to see the exact same window come up. I'm going to choose this change parameters, choose my date. Now notice this time the date's already at 6:29. So if the date was already at 6:29, I can say just use save parameters and it'll run 6:29. Now on here right now, Matt staged for us some on route 10, 11, and 12. So notice the route is here to the left-hand side where I can jump if I wanted to jump down, or I can, if I'm here at the top, I can just page during my page at the top here. Now for each one, it's going to show me the stops 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. And it's also going to give me total cases, total bottles, my total for the truck, and it will also show each invoice on there with invoice notes. So if there's a note on the invoice that was submitted with the invoice, it will show that to you there as well. Now, since you're using RoadNet, by the way, this is what it's defaulted to based on your customer card setup inside Infusion to the default stop and route and stop. Now, if this isn't any help to you and you're just going to look at it in RoadNet, that's fine. You don't have to print this report. I would suggest you print it after you import from RoadNet, which I'll show you. We have it on here again to do your final double check that everything came over from RoadNet okay. So this one you can run during the day to see how your loads, how your trucks are building. You don't have to pull the information over to RoadNet just to see that. So if you're just wanting to check how much is building on a route, how many cases does it look like, run this to screen and you can look at how your trucks are building for the night. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay. And you can run that as many times as you want. There's no harm in running that multiple times. All right, this next step starts your RoadNet export routes. So there's 2 main steps to RoadNet. The first step is taking all the invoices we have in the system and passing them over to RoadNet. The second step is RoadNet bringing them, sending us a file and you bringing it back into Infusion to update the routes and stops on all the invoices in the system. So this first step is taking that file out. And I want to just go to the folder so you can see what happens because it goes really fast and there's nothing magical here. But so I'm going to go to Reports. I'm going to go to Warehouse and we have a RoadNet folder. So again, I'm in my Infusion Reports folder, which you should have a shortcut to. I'm under Warehouse, and I've selected my RoadNet folder. I'm going to delete this just so you can see it come in here. Actually, I'm going to rename this because we don't have a file back for you, so I want to show you something there. But okay, so what will happen when I hit this button, it will do an action that will run all your invoices and put it out into a text file called roadnet_invoices into this folder. So let's see if the magic happens here. I'm going to hit this button. You're going to get a little screen that pops up. Don't hit anything, and then it'll finish. And when I go over to this folder, it'll be a file here called roadnet_invoices, and that's where we're going to map your roadnet process to where you'll go into roadnet and hit that import. It'll pull from this folder. Now, it's really ugly. It's not very exciting. You can see it here, but that is the process. Questions about that?
If you didn't change the name on that, would it overwrite that file?
Yep, it overwrites it every time. Yep. And you can run as many times as you want to roadnet. So there's a little magic box, checkbox inside your roadnet import options. And it's like, it says like append or something like that. I have the exact name a customer told me once. I always call it the magic checkbox. Then someone actually told me what the box name is, but there's a little checkbox that says to append. So every time you hit that roadnet export, we send all invoices for tomorrow over to roadnet. Now we're only sending invoices for tomorrow. So if someone entered an advanced order that shouldn't ship for 5 more days, we're not going to send it over to roadnet. We only send stuff that is supposed to go for tomorrow. But every time you hit that export, it will do all invoices again. The reason that's important is when you have that magic checkbox marked, if you had done routing changes already in the system, it should not override them with that magic checkbox. Now, what is nice is if for some reason you clear your route for tomorrow and you mess up in roadnet, honestly, you could wipe the whole session and then just re-export from us and upload them all again too. So it's very friendly on the upload to roadnet. Good. Any other questions on that part, sending files? Okay. The next part is to import the roadnet changes into the system. So in roadnet, you are going to then select your route of what to send over to us. We're going to help you set that up in your test environment, and it will actually come across, name the exact same thing, roadnet invoices. I'm going to delete this. And it's almost in exactly the same format. We will help you format that. There's only a slight difference. You're sending a stop number, so there's one additional field on the end on stop number, so that's about the only change, but otherwise the file looks very similar. This is not your file because you don't have it set up to send to us yet. We need your test environment. This is someone else's I stole. So that's the file there. But it will bring it back and it will call it roadnet_invoices, just like the file I sent them. It'll overwrite anything that's there. So when I hit this roadnet import, it's gonna open this workbook, which, by the way, if you're looking in your roadnet folder, it's this file right here. Our shortcut just opens it from there. Okay. So a few important things on this window. The first thing is you need to enter what your delivery date is. So right now I'm going to deliver for 6/29. Now notice right here, it tells me what my next delivery date is. Now the reason that is important is the last process of our roadnet, which I'm going to walk through you the steps that this workbook does. The last step is to say anything you didn't route for tomorrow, meaning you put it on an unassigned truck in roadnet, and typically people don't pass back to us the unassigned truck in roadnet. So if If you have all your routes, you move stuff around like you want it, and you move off things that you don't want to deliver tomorrow to an unassigned truck, then you will not send me back the unassigned truck. So anything not sent back to me from RoadNet that I sent to them, we move ahead to the next delivery date, and I'll send it back to you the next day to see if you can't deliver it then. So that next day is driven by whatever is in this box. Now, let's say for some reason there's a holiday, there is a day that you are closed for snow purposes, that you know it's not, the next delivery date is not really going to be that date. Now, automatically our formula, if you want to look at that, automatically doesn't deliver on Saturday or Sunday, etc. So if you don't like that date, then you can type in another date. So let's say I say, oh gosh, we're not going to deliver on the 30th. The next day is going to be the 4th, which would be silly because that's a holiday. Then I can override it by typing it in there. And then all orders that are on the unassigned will move forward to that day. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yes, but I have to ask the question. You're not trying to know the answer. When, because of what you just did, you rolled it to July.
Uh-huh.
Will the orders that we moved now be priced for July instead of June?
That's a good question, Mike.
No, it's by law, by delivery date.
That's a good question. No, it wouldn't have. We do have a reprice process going on, but the deal still would have been June. So no, I don't think that would be true. What would you like to do with those orders? Would you really want them to be repriced, or would you want them to be canceled?
Well, given the choice, well, then I would need to know what orders were canceled, because we'll have to rekey them.
Yeah, we could send an email.
I'm sorry?
We could send an email with that list, but.
Okay. By the way, Corrie, just so you know, this is going to be rare that this happens. Well,
Yeah.
Actually, not so rare.
Yeah.
Because what if we held an order for credit on June 30th? And we're going to ship it July 1st.
Yeah.
A different process than what you're demonstrating here.
But same concept.
Through this. I'm sorry?
Yeah, same concept, because we actually have planned for you. So that's a good point, because we actually have planned for you. I think a process Jamie asked you during your AR hold, which was, do you want to roll forward the request ship date each night, knowing for those orders that weren't released. So you're exactly right. It's the exact same process as to what you want to do with them. So in your opinion, if you, again, having the choice of what would you like the system to do? I see kind of three options. The system could reprice it to the new month and send you an email of what it repriced. The system could alert you that these are not matching, and we actually have a view that does that already. And you could then do something manually with those reports or those orders, either cancel them or rekey them or do something. Or the system could send you a list of those and go ahead and remove them out of the system so that someone rekeys them to the right one.
Well, if you're telling me that the system can automatically reprice, then that would be the best, because that's what we do now.
Okay. Yeah, well, we already have planned, and it's actually on my development list for next week. We already have planned for you that reprice. I committed that to you because of if they change bottle or cases. We wanted it to reprice in the process, so it's just adding one more criteria for me to reprice. So, yes, I can do that.
Okay, then that would be perfect.
Okay. Perfect, but I'll make sure we still send you a list of what we reprice, which is fine. We do that anyway. And
I want to know that.
yeah, I agree.
All right.
Yeah.
I want them in
They might, and that's fine, but at least we'll know why.
Yeah.
You know, so that's fine.
That's okay. We'll do it on invoice date. We're good. Okay. All right, I'm going to explain these options right here. So there's a whole list of options, and I really think you guys always use the first option, but I want to walk through the other options because you might have occasions where you might need to do something else. So in our system, it is perfectly okay to pull from RoadNet multiple times during your routing process. Now, why that would be important is if you have a heavy night and your router is moving slow and you need to get the warehouse going, you can pass back a couple routes from RoadNet and run pick tickets. The only pick tickets that are not going to be accurate are any pick tickets that you do for your whole warehouse versus, your by routes. And I'm saying that, but that's probably not really true. Because your whole warehouse ones, we probably don't even pay attention to the route. So those would probably be fine, but you wouldn't want to print every route if you really haven't already routed. So I'm going to show you how to manually run pick tickets, and you could pick a route and print your pick tickets instead of hitting the button that prints all of your routes. So that would be important because otherwise the ones you haven't routed are all going to say unassigned, and that would be a big waste of paper. But if for some reason you want to start a route early, you definitely could do that with this process. So the first one, I'll talk about the first one, which is probably going to be your most common, but I'll read to you the other three options that you have. This first one does all the actions of the other three. So first one of many sounds just like it means. It's the first time you're going to bring in the RoadNet import, so it does some actions of moving all the orders to an unassigned truck, and then it's going to update what you sent over, whatever trucks you did sent over, it'll update it with the right route and stop based on what you sent back from RoadNet. So that's the first one of many. Not the first, but not the last. It does almost exactly the same thing, but it knows it's already started routing, so it expects some stuff to already be routed appropriately. It looks for anything left on the unassigned truck or not marked that it has been routed from RoadNet already, and then it updates again with multiple whatever trucks and stops you have sent. The last one is really important here. It does one additional step that the other two does not do. It first does exactly what the one previous did, which is it knows there's some things that you've already routed from RoadNet, so it won't touch those. And it will start to say, update anything from the route and truck from RoadNet. And the last step it does is anything that you didn't send then from RoadNet, it will move to this next delivery date. Now, the first and only import, the very first option, is doing all of those. It's taking everything that's in the system now, moving it to an unassigned truck. Then it's updating everything you sent me to the right route and stop based on what you did in RoadNet. And then anything left on that unassigned truck is moving it to tomorrow so that I will send it back to you again, or the next delivery day, I should say. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I just want to make sure I understand something.
Sure.
When the orders are initially coming in, they're not assigned to any route, correct?
They are assigned to, when the orders come in, they will assign to a default route and stop that you have at the customer card. Yep.
I got it. I'm sorry, Corrie, you're right.
Yep.
I'm in the RoadNet. So
yeah.
So if they decide to so they have all their orders, and now they decide they want to build a route, and they want to pull down for a truck or two early.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But while they're at it, I guess my question is, should they only concentrate on building those two trucks and not start building anything else?
Typically that's what most people do, just because it's kind of pointless to start building the other trucks till you have all the orders for them, because your opinion might change on, your route organization. Typically, doesn't mean it has to, but so most time people don't start building a truck until they really feel like most of the orders, if not all of the orders, are in for that truck. But like if you're out of town, cuts off a little earlier. A lot of times people have certain delivery routes that cut off. They strongly suggest they're in order earlier. You definitely could hit your RoadNet export and start building those. Again, that little magic checkbox that we'll make sure is checked in your test environment there at RoadNet. You will export out, and it will have those same invoices plus more invoices the next time, but shouldn't override what you've already done and routed to a truck in RoadNet the first time. So it's fine to do that multiple times.
That's what I wanted to know.
So they
Yep.
do that for like same day? Like when you go to multiple shops?
The
Same
night
day
shift is coming in
delivery,
early.
yeah.
Or, yeah,
The night shift's coming early.
Same day deliveries won't be within this process. This is only trucks for tomorrow.
You just drop in
Yeah.
for same day.
Oh, well, I mean, not that we do a lot of it, but Paul does bring up a good point. We would be able to do same day though, correct?
What would you do with the same day? They don't typically the same days build you can see it in a truck in our system if you want, but most people don't take it out to RoadNet and build it. You don't need
Well,
to.
how would we build it? Would we do it in your system?
Yeah, you can just do it in ours.
Which is what we do now. We don't build
Yeah,
the road
we
that
just
we
drop
build it in
the
for.
WMS, yeah.
Yeah, so, okay.
Yeah.
All right, we're good with that.
Yep, good. And Jamie will make a note to make sure we went through that same day process and everybody feels good about it. So good. Okay, now one really cool thing for me, but I think it will be cool for you too, maybe. When you hit this update routes, I capture everything on this screen and we store it in a table. Now, why that's important is because in case there's something that happens with your routing and you're like, I swear to goodness, I picked, first of many and everything moved our orders ahead one, it actually will capture the user, the selection they had, the date that they chose here, and the next delivery date that they chose. And it stores it into a table every time you hit this button. So that way we can see how many times you hit the button, what selections you had, and who actually did it. So it's very helpful for research because if you're not positive of all these selections, you really can mess up your nighttime orders. So be confident. So once this gets imported, another safety check we do is I take the file that you passed back from me to RoadNet and I put it into this archive folder. And let me show you what it looks like. We don't have any for you because we haven't got any files yet, but I can show you what it looks like. Oops. Here we go. So this is what it's going to look like. So it says RoadNet_invoices and it stamps it with the date and time that you hit that button. So when you hit that button, I take that file and I move it over to an archive folder. So if there's any questions about, I swear I didn't route it to that in RoadNet, we can look up this file and see exactly the route and the stop are in the end. And we can see exactly what RoadNet passed us back because there might be some kind of issue with that as well. So hopefully we ferret through all of that during testing, but all of that is always archived and allows us, if there was a problem, we actually can rerun that same file from RoadNet. You don't have to do anything inside RoadNet either. So that's another nice thing. So that'll be archived over. Any questions about that RoadNet process before I move on to how to check after it has come in?
Okay, we're good, Corey.
Okay. Now, if you have a ton of orders and invoices, it might take a few minutes for to process and update all of your invoices and move all of those ones that weren't assigned to the next one. So I would say, typical process is 3 to 5 minutes or something if you are doing all your trucks at one time. If you're doing a small load of trucks, it maybe will take a minute or two. It just kind of depends on volume. So the next thing are safety checks that I'm going to take you through. Now, I'm going to tell you one suggestion here. after the first week of Go Live, we're going to sit with you and do all of this stuff with you. And then hopefully you're going to start doing some scenario testing when we get a day of orders in after your super user training. And you're going to run through this process several times so that you feel good about what we're going to do at Go Live. And everybody does a really great job for the first month after we're live to do exactly the steps I'm about to show you. I will say that once everything runs so smoothly, people get a little lazy on their safety checks of what you should be doing. I strongly suggest you continue to do the safety checks I'm about to go over, even if every time you've checked them, there's nothing ever there and it's always fine. That's wonderful. That's what we want. But the minute there is a problem, if you don't do these safety checks to see that there's a problem, then you're going to end up printing pig tickets and wasting a lot of paper and having a lot of confusion at night where you could have caught it at the very beginning before that all started by following these next steps. Does that make sense? Okay. So the first one is called Docs Not on Loads. We have an internal routing system ourselves. The internal routing system puts things on trucks and assigns them to the customer's default route and stop. When you use RoadNet, it is interacting with our routing system, and all it's doing is using RoadNet's route and stop instead of our default customer's route and stop. So this is called Docs Not on Loads. This means that these are invoices or documents that have not been put on a truck, and we need to look at. So I'm going to go to Warehouse 1. That's your only warehouse. I'm going to hit this little plus button to the left, and you can see it shows me all different kinds of documents. Now, invoices, that's really what you're routing for tomorrow. Pickups would be what they're calling in here as collection notes or returns, but I think they call it collection notes in here. Orders, back orders, fulfillment orders, it doesn't matter if there is stuff in there. You're not routing those. Those make no difference. Really what you're focused on is invoices. Now, notice I have 26 documents that are not put on a truck. So if I hit the expansion arrow here, and I look at my day's orders, these are all the invoices that are going for tomorrow that are not on a truck. Now, the reason it would not be on a truck, not because you unassigned it in RoadNet. Those will actually be on a truck called unassigned. So, and those would have moved forward and went to that customer's default delivery day or default route. The reason it would not be on a truck is a few different purposes. Number one, an order, somebody transferred an invoice over during your routing process, and they didn't tell you, and you never routed it in RoadNet, and it's just kind of hanging out there. So you need to move it over and decide what you want to do with it. Another reason I've had is somebody created a crazy something in RoadNet, and it wasn't a real route that existed, and it kicked out because it didn't know what to do with it. So it stuck it on this Docs Not on Loads. And they called us, and we helped them get it off of there. So there might be some situations like that. I would say that's probably less than 10% of the time. The majority of your time, you're not going to see anything in here. Now, where you might see something is on the same day, and that's where we kind of talked about the same day. So today's the 28th. I would probably have some documents up here that could be on a same day truck if you don't route it in our system and you just leave it unrouted. So those would be out here hanging out, but we don't care about those. We only care about stuff going for tomorrow. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, a few different things I can do that's kind of fun in this window here. I actually can move it to a truck and create a truck from this window. I can auto create that. If I like the route and stops that it's listed, I can just hit auto create and it will create a truck over on my Docs on Loads. If I don't like the route and stop, I actually have the ability to renumber my route and send stops. These are every invoice that's in this window here by stop number. I can look at it by reverse stop as well. And I can literally just type over the route. Like, no, I like this one to route 11. I want to put this on stop 5. I like this to route 10. That maybe would be better on stop 20. You know, just, again, type it in as you would like here. So I can route it from here, and then I can say, okay, that's where I want it to go. And then I can auto create those routes for that day. It'll show me what it's creating a route 10 and a route 11. And I can create it, and it'll move it over to my docs on loads, which is the next step that I'm going to do. So auto create will move it over from docs not on loads to docs on loads. Again, the goal is that you have probably less than 10% of the time, maybe less than that you're ever find something in there that you really do want to move. But you should always check there just in case. Does that make sense? Okay. The next window, it automatically took me to this window, but I closed it so that we could go through your screenshots, because more than likely you're going to go there and nothing's going to be there. So your next step is to go to docs on loads. And I'm going to pick my warehouse, and the only one showing in here right now is 629. Okay. So on here will show me, I don't know if you can tell, but these are little trucks. They're cute little icon trucks there. And they will assign it with an automatic sequential number. Truck 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It'll keep going forever. So that is a sequential number. You can't pick that number. It just it continually assigns the next number all through the life of the product that you're on it. Over here on vehicle, you actually will see the vehicle number, and then you'll probably see something called RoadNet at the end of it, which tells us that we imported that from RoadNet. Now, if you click on any one of these trucks, you can see all the invoices that are on this truck. Now, this window, I'm going to open it bigger so you can see. It has like customer name, customer ID, stop number, it gives city address, some basic information. You can move these columns around. I just am holding down my left mouse key and I'm moving it over to rearrange it. If you rearrange this window, it will stick for you the next time you log in to GP, as long as you're using the same user ID. If for some reason you wanted to transfer between trucks and rearrange stops, you can do that in our system as well. So let's say you've done that from RoadNet, and all of a sudden someone is like, hey, I think you messed up. I think you should move something around, or something changes in your opinion. You can actually do some routing stuff in our system as well.
Entry is not valid.
I'm going to briefly go over that because you won't use. Oh, that's okay. I'm going to briefly go over that. You're not going to use it a lot, but you might have a need, so I want you to at least understand the functionality is there. With RoadNet and you doing it in there, most typically, you're going to go here and you're going to make sure you see all your routes for the night, and you're going to make sure the ones you feel like are moved to tomorrow. So if I moved any to tomorrow, I would have a 6:30 here. I would want to make sure that I don't see all of my invoices over on 6:30, which means something went wrong in routing. Otherwise, I should see, a basic number of invoices that I moved over for tomorrow. So to transfer between trucks, I'm going to transfer, that's the same customer. Let's do something realistic. Okay. So I'm going to transfer this one that's on stop 2 here, and I'm going to move it from truck 11 to route 10. Okay. So I'm going to go into our transfer to load button over on the left, or right, excuse me. This window allows you to create new trucks. So if I had an overflow truck that I wanted to move some stuff to, it also will let you move it to an existing truck. Now, if I know the truck number, because you are looking over here, see how this is truck 3 that I want to move it to? then I can just type in 3. If you're not sure, you can use the lookup glass, and it will show you all of the trucks that are out there on the system. Now, we usually let you keep back a couple days so you can reflect back what you've done previously. If that's true, just make sure you're looking at the date for tomorrow. So I'm going to look for 629 Route 10, which is truck 3. So I'm going to hit select. Notice it has I highlighted this one to transfer. So it's showing that in the left lower hand box. If I had to hit my shift button and down, I could highlight multiple in a range, or I can hit my shift button and control, and I can pick and choose different ones, and they will all show in this lower left hand box. And then I can just hit transfer. Now, what that's going to do, it told me to redisplay. The redisplay button is up here on the right hand corner, the little 2 arrows. So I'm going to hit that. And I'm going to put my down here, and I'm going to go here to this, this route. Now notice it shows 10 and 11, right? Because I transferred one from Route 10, and I also have one from Route 11 Route 11 that I transferred over. Now I need to renumber to say, how does that one that I just transferred from 11 going to fit in with the rest of these guys? So to renumber because you transferred, or to renumber because you might have multiple in 11 that you now feel differently than what you passed me to RoadNet, I'm just going to go to this quick maintenance window and do by customer and address. It's going to pull up the exact same window that I just did at Docs Not on Loads. So I'm going to type over this one. I'm on Route 10 now. And let's say this one I want to go actually to the first stop, and I want this one to be the second stop. Now, I can look at this window. This is pretty cheesy right now because I only have 2. But if you had a whole list and you had 20-something stops, you can look at this by route order and stop order, or you can look at this at reverse stop order. Now I want to point out one other field that is showing here. I only really have, actually I think one other distributor is going to do this now, but I only have like 1 or 2 distributors that use this field. But what they do is they have this up on their merge line, and they put in the number of split boxes. So in all of our reports, we show you the number of cases and we show you the number of bottles. But I have a couple distributors that want to know the exact number of boxes that are being dropped off so the driver can do a count before they leave that account. If that was true, we obviously can do some math to estimate, but that doesn't account for different size boxes you might grab, different measurements that you might do. So because of that, you can put an exact box count in here. So I can say there are only on your splits, and it will add the split boxes into your total case number and give your driver a total number of physical boxes. That's only if you wanted to do that. So once I've redone that, you can see that now I'm going to hit redisplay just so this 10 and 11 go away, and you'll be able to see it here. So notice now I just have a 10, and when I click on that, they're in the order that I want them to be. So again, from this window, you could redo your stops. You can transfer from truck to truck. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. The biggest thing you're checking on RoadNet is you want to make sure you see all of your trucks that you routed for from RoadNet, and you want to make sure that anything you moved ahead of time that you see is reasonable to what is moved ahead of time in this window. I would have a date that said 6:30, and I would maybe have 2 or 3 customers over there. And if that's what I moved, then that's great. But if I see 100 customers over there, and you didn't unassign 100 customers on your RoadNet process, you need to stop and we need to look at what went wrong, because it could be that you accidentally forgot to pass me a route from RoadNet, which happens. Some people accidentally don't click the right thing, and nothing got passed over from RoadNet on certain routes, and they felt like they did. That might be an issue there. Most of the time, most of my distributors, the real problems happen when a backup is doing it and it's not the normal person for the night. So that always can be a problem too. So make sure that you double check those before you start. Another way to double check that is running that load summary again. So remember, I had the load summary up here at the top before you routed, which is our default stop and our default route. You run it again, and you would be able to see what it is now that you've updated it from RoadNet. So I'm going to pull this up. And again, if it's the date I want, then I can just say use save parameters. I'm going to hit OK. And it's going to show me now. Notice this is my route 10. I have stop 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know what those numbers, we need to look at those numbers. That's a little wonky there. We'll figure that out for you. And route 11, which I moved to, and I still have my little one guy on 12. Make sense? Any questions on that?
No, we're good.
Okay. Once you feel good about your routing, that everything came over from RoadNet, everything moved ahead that should have moved ahead, that was on your unassigned truck. A lot of times what people do, that RoadNet manifest that shows you, they print that out and look at that compared to like our load summary, and make sure that it looks like what was moved ahead, it matches that RoadNet manifest. Once you're done with that, the next step is you're ready to print pick tickets. Now, what will happen is an open item for you guys is to tell us the order that you want pick tickets to print. What will happen is we will say those order, like oddball bottles first, then oddball cases, then the bottle room ticket, then your fast flow or your load ticket or whatever you're using for that. So all the reports that you would use, we automatically say for tomorrow, print all of these reports in order. And when you hit this button, right now Matt just has a text file coming up to tell you it will print. It's not printing now because we don't have that list. But it will print every one of those pick tickets to the printer as soon as you hit that button. So you don't have to go report, and you run them. You hit that button and all of those reports in that order of the list you define will print out onto the printer and will be running onto your printer. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
We actually have that defined. I'll finish that off this afternoon.
Oh, good. Perfect. Now let's say you got all your pick tickets off the printer, right? And let's say somebody spilled coffee on all of the bottle room tickets, or the printer jammed, and when the printer got unjammed, it ate three of the bottle room pick tickets, okay? You do not need to hit this button again and print all your pick tickets again. That would be a lot of wasted paper, so don't do that. What you can do is, notice we put a shortcut here for you called pick reports. Every one of your pick reports are here, and you can print them to screen and then just print one of the pages, or you can print all of the pages of just that pick ticket. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, it doesn't know that, like, let's say you wanted to print something early, and then you wanted to hit this button. Just remember, this button is always going to print all the pick tickets. It doesn't know you've already printed route 13. It just knows I need to print all pick tickets for all routes every time you hit this button for everything for tomorrow. If you want to pick and choose your routes, you can do that all within these tickets, and you could run one route at a time. You could run it, for a different day. You could run it for today if you wanted to look at your same days, by the way. All of those things are available here in your manual pick tickets. Now, we put a shortcut for you here, but I want to show you the other location. Under your reports folder, you are going to have you have a folder, not you're going to, you do have a folder called Pick Reports. And under here are all the same reports that I'm showing you over here. We just put a shortcut on your home screen so you didn't have to scroll out and find it. But it is the exact same report if you launch it from this folder or whether you launch it from your shortcut. All of these reports work exactly the same way. I'm going to click on one. It's going to come up just like my replenishment report and my load summary report. Oh, it's down here, sorry. And it's going to say, do you want to use save parameters or change parameters? And it'll give me a date. Some of these might give you a date and route option if we've set the report that way. If we have not set the report that way, and you said, ooh, I'd like to pick and choose routes, Corrie. I don't want you to assume every route. Then just let us know, and we can make that an option for you on a pick as well. So right now this is set to 629, so I'm okay with that. I'm going to say use save parameters, and I'm just going to run it. If I wasn't okay with it, I would check the change parameter and pick a different date. Now, I'm not going to go through all these pick tickets because I know Matt has sent you a copy of every single one of them, and I know, Mike, you're still working on firming up any changes you would like so that we can make those changes to those pick reports for you. Any questions about those running the pick tickets or how to reprint them one at a time?
We're good.
Okay. The next process, after you've ran your pick tickets, then you hand that out to the warehouse and they should be starting your picking process. The next step for the computer is to consolidate your invoices to as few pieces of paper as possible before you run the printing of the invoices. Now, typically what happens is at 6 o'clock, we dump over to a table which invoices we think you will need to consolidate. Meaning they fit a criteria that we feel means it should be consolidated. It has the same invoice break, meaning invoice breaks mean you haven't separated it by wine and spirits for a customer selection or because you broke it in Pocket Advantage. So it has the same invoice break. It's for the same requested ship date. The customer, this was new for you, the customer is not marked do not consolidate because if it's marked do not consolidate, it won't show up in that window. So at 6 o'clock, we evaluate all of that criteria and we say, ooh, this is what we think should need to be consolidated. Now, we can adjust that time and we can do it multiple times too. We can reevaluate the list. The goal is to dump the list over to what we think needs consolidated when your order cutoff is 99% in. We don't care if your routing's done. We don't care if all the other stuff. That has nothing to do with the criteria of what should be moved over. It always, even if you move stuff for tomorrow, it does one last filter to only put stuff in there that have an actual date of it going for tomorrow. So at 6 o'clock, we kind of dump, this is what we think needs to be put together. And then what you would do after you're done with pick tickets, notice this is step 8 and you have a space here before step 10. You're missing step 9, right? Step 9 is over here on the left. We have to put macros on the left-hand side. It's a little quirk. But I'm going to click this step 9. Now, it's going to go super fast, and we can all watch it and be amazed at macros. And then I'll explain to you what it's really doing. So I'm going to click that. Oh, look at that. Somebody kicked me out. That was lovely. So let me log back into GP. Yeah, somebody is playing with me, I guess, huh? That's nice. I love when, our own people kick me out during trainings. Let me go back in here.
You keep saying something that makes me a little nervous about this process. You keep saying
Sure.
at 6 o'clock, this is what we do. But this is obviously part of what we need to do to load, correct?
Nope.
You got to determine whether I can consolidate invoices.
No, consolidate. The only thing consolidation affects is when you print invoices. You're picking, you're going, you're doing everything else you want to do. This affects is printing. And if for some reason you didn't consolidate, the worst thing that it's going to happen is you have more pieces of paper. That's it.
Right, okay, so they're going to start working with whatever they have. The night crew will start working with reports.
Pick tickets.
And they will not have,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, pick tickets.
Yep.
But they will not have
Invoices.
any invoices yet.
Yeah, but you don't need invoices to pick because remember you're doing a bottle pick ticket. So you're only going to check them. Yeah, I think you're still going to check your last against the invoice, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So that would be the only thing you're waiting on. Now, depending on your, depending on two factors, and by the way, that doesn't have to, if all of your orders are 99% in at 5:30, we can run this process at 5:30. It doesn't really matter. It's just when you have most of your orders. It doesn't matter that you've routed them yet. It doesn't matter any of that. It's just when is the majority of your orders in so we can tell, hey, this is what needs to be consolidated. If we dumped it at 5:30 and you got 5 more orders in, it just kind of means that those 5 orders wouldn't get, mushed together if they needed to get mushed together.
Okay.
The only thing I'll say about consolidation timing, we cut the time it takes for consolidation dramatically by doing that little step where I said we evaluate what should be consolidated and that we narrow the list down. So because of that, that's why it's a timed process. But depending on 2 factors, will it depend on how much time consolidation will take for you. The first factor is, of course, the number of invoices you have going for tomorrow. If you have 1,000 invoices or 1,200 invoices, that's different than if you only have 500 invoices going for tomorrow. The second factor is how many of those invoices really need mushed together. You might not have, I have one customer that has a pretty decent volume, but they don't have a decent volume of what gets mushed together because they just don't have a lot of multiple call-in orders on the same customer throughout the day. Or they have so many invoice breaks at a customer, splitting wine and spirits, doing things like that they don't mush those together anyway. So all of that kind of factors in how long it takes you. Probably my largest volume customer with largest amount that gets consolidated, maybe we're talking 10 minutes now. Yeah, Jamie's nodding her head. That's what it is. So around 10 minutes is what I would anticipate. The only thing you want to make sure when you do consolidation is it literally takes those invoices that it's going to consolidate and it takes them totally out of the system and puts them in this temporary table. And then it puts them back into the system with a different number. So that's a dramatic step. So for that moment, you can't run pick tickets because those orders, if you hit it at the time where they're out, won't show into the system. And you can't be futzing on the invoice itself, like opening it up and trying to do stuff with it. Not everybody has to be out of the system. As long as nobody's messing with those invoices for tomorrow, you don't have to kick.
Muted, but may unmute themselves.
You don't have to kick people out of the system. You don't have to, you don't have to kick people out of the system. You don't have to be very dramatic about the whole process. You just got to make sure you're done printing your pick tickets. Your pick tickets have printed successful, because for those 10 minutes that consolidation is running, you can't open those invoices and you can't do reports on those invoices. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
It does.
So I'm going to hit this magic button. We're going to watch it whirl, and then I'll explain to you what it did. Okay. So macros are lovely. Macros are something you can do inside the system yourself. If you have a little geek bone, you can do a macro yourself inside the system. We love macros because what it does is automate a set of actions without you having to remember what buttons to click. So that's the lovely thing about macros. So in this case, the buttons it hit for me, so I didn't have to remember to do it, is it went down to my date and figured out what was tomorrow. So what is tomorrow? It advances it one day and takes that date and says, I only want to consolidate stuff for tomorrow. The other thing it's doing is telling me to use from a filtered list. This filtered list is the list that I talked about before that we've already done the work to say these are the only invoices out there in your system that really need smushed together. And then the other thing, which is missing here, so we'll make a note, is it will put that the date is tomorrow of that invoice. And the other thing it did, but I just messed it up, is it selected all of the invoices and it stops. Now I could hit this last button, but we make it stop on purpose because we think you should look at this window first. So make sure this really is tomorrow, that you didn't do something funky with your system date that caused this not to be tomorrow. So I would want to make sure before I hit this consolidate button, 6/29 really is tomorrow what I'm delivering. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And once you feel good, then you can hit this button called consolidate. And I'm going to go ahead and hit it so you can see what happens here. And I want to hit yes. Now this is going to go super quick because there's hardly anything in this window. But now I'm going to print this report to screen so I can explain to you what happened. But normally you don't really have to print anything to screen or look at it. It's probably not any information you would like, but I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. I'm not going to redisplay it because we don't care. Okay, so on this report, this is what it did. This was invoice number 106 and invoice number 103, and it now made it 116. This was invoice number 44, and this was invoice number 42, and it now made it invoice 117. So it's taking the next sequential number, and it's merging that together there. Does that make sense?
What's it doing with the original invoices?
It just burns the number. It archives them. So it actually stores it in an archive table, so we know that these two invoices made this invoice. And it's actually in the system where you can tell, and there's an inquiry window, and we'll also show it on your invoice register, actually. Okay? All right, so I'm just going to close that for now. So once consolidation is done, you're ready to do your next step, which is print the invoices. Now, notice I have step 10 as print documents. It's going to open the exact same window of Docs on Load, which is number 6. But just like we talked before, there's a couple duplicates in this list because we literally want you to follow step 1 through 12. So because of that, we put the print documents in here. So I'm going to go ahead and click it. It's going to open my Docs on Load window, which should look familiar because we were just there. And I'm going to hit the plus button. I'm going to see my 629 load. And here's my 3 trucks that I had out there for 629. Now, it doesn't matter what order you want to print these loads in. Some people make a list of the order they're going to load their trucks, and that's the order that someone prints invoices. If you, because you guys are doing yours not waiting till they pick it, so honestly, you'll probably be done with printing invoices by the time they're done loading the trucks. But if you are worried about getting that invoice down there for them to do some looking at, you could start with the trucks that they're going to load first, and then you can hit everything else in, order that it's in your window. So what you're going to do is you're going to click on the route that you want to print. So I'm clicking on Route 10. I'm going to click on the grid below just so it knows I'm in Route 10. And then we have a hotkey for you, just so, again, a lovely macro, so you don't have to remember what buttons to push. We love macros. And you will hit a F9 button to send it to your primary printer, and you will hit F8 button if you want to send it to your backup printer. Now, sometimes what people do, and especially you guys, I think, are going to print all your invoices right away. Sometimes people send one route to the primary and one route to the backup. So you'll do one on F9 and one on F8. So you can do that and really knock through the printing of your invoices.
For each individual route, Corey?
Yep, for each individual route. You're going to click on the route you want, and then you're going to hit the button. Now, I'm not going to actually hit the button because I want to show you what it's doing, and it's going to go so fast. And I also don't want to print out on your printer. Right now, you don't have your final printer set up. So we have a temporary printer of, whatever laser.
It's our main.
Yeah.
By the way, we're really close on the printers.
Oh, good.
Here.
Good.
Yeah, I got it installed.
That's fantastic. That's good news.
I got to get power. Yeah, no, I got to get power squared away. That's all.
Good.
Big deal.
Well, you can go ahead and print on here. Don't let it stop you. You can go ahead and print. It's just going to go to that main printer, that main laser printer. So it should still print, by the way, but that it'll just go to that printer. And they both backup and primary go to the same printer right now. Obviously, when you get your printers up, we'll map both of them so you can do that. But what the macro does, when I hit F8, these are the steps it's going to do. Which you should know, by the way, how to do them manually in case for some reason the macro isn't working or you're doing it from someone who doesn't have the macro loaded for some odd reason. You should know these manual steps anyway. So clicking on the route, clicking on the grid below, it can be on any order in the grid below. It just lets the computer know I'm on Route 10. And then hit the macro, and it will do the following. It'll hit this print button and go down to invoices returns by route. And what it will do is it's selecting to print invoices unposted and historical. Historical invoices are for your bill and holds, what you guys call your extended months. So what happens in your extended months, and we have a hold session. I don't think we've done it yet, the walkthrough for bill and holds, right? Maybe we have.
did that.
Oh, you did that while it's gone. That's right. So that should be familiar to you. It is sitting in the system with a requested ship date. Those bill and holds will actually go to RoadNet like all your other unposted orders. It get routed the exact same way that we just went through to all your unposted orders. And the pick tickets, it will show those bill and holds just like it does the unposted orders. There's really no difference to your warehouse on those. The only difference is the number schema usually, depending on your preferences to that, but typically the number schema of the invoice number. And the other thing is it lives in our historical tables. So this invoice print process will merge your regular orders and your bill and holds invoices together in a happy world. The other thing this will do is it will print pickup slips. So this little box here, print returns and include unposted, is your pickups. It will only print pickups scheduled for tomorrow. The way it releases a pickup is we have a process in the system that looks for a regular order going for tomorrow, and it will then move the pickup to that delivery date. When you do RoadNet, we update the pickup with that same route and stop number as your order that you have routed in RoadNet. And that then merges together with the same route and stop and comes out in order on your paper as well. The other thing it does is check this little box. This is reprint previously printed. If someone has printed an invoice to screen, the system flags into the table every time someone prints an invoice, whether it's printing it to screen, whether it's printing it to paper, and it will keep a count of how many times this invoice has been printed. at nighttime when we're doing batch printing of invoices, we don't really care if it's been printed before or not. Now, if you had totally printed a route for some reason and you have just freshly transferred a new invoice into the system, you could uncheck this box manually, and it would only print to you ones that you have not printed already with that route. So, but typically you're going to just print everything. And then it'll hit the print button. Now, if you had hit F9, which is your primary printer, it will say blank paper. If you hit F10, which goes to the backup printer, it will go to which form, Matt? Is the backup long or other? Long. It will go to long form, which will go to your backup printer. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm just curious why do you call it long form?
Yeah, these are lovely names, aren't they? That's what GP, we don't get a choice of these, Microsoft calls. There are 4 different options of forms, blank, short, long, and other. I'm not sure why they call them that, but yeah, they're lovely names. Yeah.
All right.
Good. Any other questions on printing? As soon as you hit print, it'll come up with a little box that will scroll it'll show you a little progress as it's printing out. You can send another route even before the other one's done printing, but you do have to wait until it's done processing the route. How long it takes to process depends on the speed of your printer communication as well as the speed of how many invoices you have in the system. But typically what I have a lot of my larger distributors do is they have they send it to each printer, and sometimes they have it on 2 computers or use 2 sessions because most people are not, and they have 2 sessions pulled up with 2 different logins, and they can send one from one session, and while it's processing they log into the other session and they send another set. Yeah.
Corrie, can you just give us a moment here? We
Yeah.
have to say goodbye to somebody.
Oh yeah, sure.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead. You tell me when you're ready.
Okay. We have somebody who is taking a medical leave, and he just wanted to stop by and say goodbye.
Aw, that's good. Yeah.
You met Donnie, right?
I did meet Donnie.
He's one of our warehouse managers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. How long is he going to be gone for?
Well, at least 3 months.
Oh, man.
It's a kidney transplant.
Oh, my gosh. Oh. Well,
So,
oh, goodness.
at least 3 months.
Yeah, we'll keep him in our thoughts for sure.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. Good. So, again, you can run 2 sessions, print on different printers, so that you can just keep it rolling. And that printer will just chug out as quick as it can, and then you'll be done. Once you are done with your printing, that's when you're ready to move on. You cannot do the next steps that we're going to talk about until you are for sure all your invoices printed. Now, it's not that you can't print your invoices after. If there's a tragedy, luckily because of this magical button we added for Infusion customers that allows this to print historical, even if you do the next step, which is posting, you really can still print your route. But it's just not the normal process, so make sure your invoices really are all okay. Now, let's say one of the invoices gets trashed for some reason. You do not need to print the whole route. You can just double click on any invoice and you can hit the printer icon in the upper right hand corner and it will only print that invoice. So you do not need, I'm just going to hit print, invoice, blank paper. it will come up. I'm going to print to screen. You can print it to the printer. I'm going to go to screen here. And you can reprint any one individual invoice at any time. So don't feel like you need to reprint the whole route just because you might have a couple that got caught in a printer jam, or someone, spilled something on it when they were doing the check. You can just print one invoice at a time. Good. Any questions about printing?
We're good, thanks.
Okay. Now, we have a separate step for your manifest. The only thing I'll throw out to you, Mike, as you're putting your list together of what order pick tickets, since you guys are going straight from, you have to do your manifest. I'm going to take that back. Bloop, bloop, bloop. You don't get an option because you're going to do consolidation and you want the real invoice numbers on here. So forget that. So your last step before you hit post is printing the manifest. So I'm going to hit that little step 11. Again, it's a report just like every other report, and I'm going to pick tomorrow. And this shows me every single route. You can see I have 3 routes in here, and it's showing me the manifest. The manifest has each invoice. This is for what you're going to give the drivers. And again, I know Matt has sent you examples, so you can make changes and we can make sure that that's exactly what you would like to see. Once you're done printing the manifest, the only other thing I'll say about the manifest is I'm going to open this little pick reports folder. Matt will have one, and I don't see that he put it on here, but let's see, it might be in this folder. Okay. Matt will have one that will be called Manifest Posted. If for a reason you hit this post button and then you realize you need to reprint the manifest, sometimes that happens in the morning. Some people are like, ooh, I really wanted to reprint that and I forgot to keep a copy, or I forgot to print it last night, or it got lost from last night. You do need to use the Manifest Posted version, which it tells the computer you already put it in the historical tables. Otherwise, you can use the unposted version. Okay, once you're done with that, you're going to hit the magic button of posting. The reason I call it a magic button is because you shouldn't do this till all the stuff is done before. This post button is going to tell the system you no longer want to make changes to this invoice. You no longer need to run our pick reports on these invoices. It moves it to a historical table to where now we can report sales on. When you hit this button, it's going to be a macro, and it's going to go through a series of steps. Now, the series of steps are important for the system to do, but you don't have to sit there and watch every step. Now, I'm going to do it today, and it's going to go superbly fast. So I'm going to talk first through the steps so you can see what it's going to do. The first thing it does is it moves your system one day ahead. So it's going to go here, and you're at 6/28. It's going to move it to 6/29 because that's the delivery date that I need to post for. Now, if you are doing something, you can do all these steps manually, by the way. So if you are doing something out of the norm, you are not delivering for tomorrow, or you are doing this after midnight. I don't think that's a really a common need for you guys, so we did not set you up 2 macros. If you found that you were doing this often after midnight, like you waited for clean invoices instead of dirty, then we'd want to set you up a different macro, one that was before midnight and one that was after midnight, because after midnight, your system is already tomorrow, so it doesn't need to move to tomorrow. So it's going to move me to tomorrow, which should be my delivery date, and I'm going to hit OK. It's going to go into the sales module, and it's going to go to open invoices for today. It's going to go to these open invoices, and what this is showing me is every invoice that's out there in the system with a requested ship date of today, and today is 6/29 because I moved my system date, and that is not on hold, and it is going to select them all, and it's going to transfer off any back orders. Now, you shouldn't really have any back orders, but this is if you did a clean invoice for some reason and pick something short. It would transfer off that back order, and then it would hit the post button. So the post would hit here, and then it's going to finalize and post all of those invoices. Now, posting can vary in time. It depends how many invoices you have. It depends how many back orders you're going to transfer. In your case, you should be transferring almost 0 back orders. So posting for you, I'm going to estimate around 20, 25, maybe at 30 minutes at the most. You don't need to stand there and watch it. I mean, the only things I would do is when you hit this button, you need to make sure, don't touch anything on that computer. As hard as it is, you don't check email, don't go and do your Yahoo account or something. When you hit the button, you need to leave that computer alone. Anytime you run a macro, like with consolidation as well, I should have mentioned that then, the computer is doing something and then it knows to go to the next stop when it does the next part, like when that report popped up. It knows to hit cancel. It can't do that if you've moved it to a different window and then it doesn't know what to do, how to get back. So it confuses it. So because of that, when you are ready to hit the post button, it should be when you're ready not to touch your computer. Now, some people have things they're doing, like, for instance, you've printed all the invoices, you know the invoices printed out fine, but you still need to organize them on clipboards. You need to set the driver's logs out. Maybe you need to go load stuff into their trucks or whatever you're going to do. You got to go talk to the warehouse people downstairs. You've got to, throw stuff down that hole that you guys love to throw down to the warehouse people. Maybe you got to do some fun stuff like that. So all of that stuff you're going to be doing, you might find that you're still there when posting finishes, and that's perfectly fine. Just watch the computer to make sure it goes to this sales navigation pane. You should see it click open the open invoices today, and you should see it click all of these. If you see that happen, you can just not pay attention to it then. That means the macro started successful and you didn't accidentally not hit the button. So that means that it's going. The next step that you should see either in the morning, and we talked about, whoever's your first in the morning should be checking the warehouse computer or the IT computer, whoever is going to be running this post job. I think it's your IT department. Somebody should check that computer to make sure it's back at the home screen and there's no errors up on screen. If there is an error up on screen, we need a screenshot of that so we know how to help it. And then we'll want to make sure that we help you manually post the invoices, just doing the steps I just did. But we'll walk through that with you till you get comfortable. Now, what are reasons why there would be an error up? Well, you did one of the no-no things I just told you not to do. You touched something else and your computer was somewhere else, you messed with your date and it wasn't, when it went to tomorrow, it wasn't really tomorrow and you didn't pay attention to that. So there's a few little things like that. Or during the posting part, you decided to turn off your computer. That will cause a problem. Or if the network all of a sudden drops in between, your network goes down. Your electricity, your power goes off even if you're on a backup generator. Sometimes not all the servers are up. So those kind of things are common things that happen during the night. With you guys doing it before actual nighttime processes, I doubt you're going to run into a lot of that. But anyway, if you're there a half hour later and it's done, check this to make sure it's back on the home screen with no errors. If you're not going to be there, then assign somebody in the morning to check that computer and make sure that it's, done its job.
Well, a couple of questions. First
Yes.
off, I won't steal Paula's question. You stole it from me. But how long do you think does this process typically take? Is it an hour? About 30 minutes?
She said
Yep.
around 30 minutes.
I'm sorry for that. Okay, so we're probably going to leave when this runs. The question Paula posed was, what if the computer goes to sleep?
Oh, that's okay.
Well, then
Yeah, that's okay.
That's okay.
I think what we typically do, I think the macro will keep it awake, by the way. I think normally, and I'll have to ask John that, I think we normally set that computer not to sleep for a certain period of time. But the work, if you remember, that computer is really, when you hit your icon for Infusion, you're actually not working on your workstation. You're actually working on the app server. So you're actually remoted into the server, and the server doesn't ever sleep. So it actually doesn't affect it if your own computer goes to sleep. It affects it if the server would have went to sleep. The only thing that affects it as far as you working on the server is you've clicked off of the server and you're doing other things. The computer is trying to get your mouse to control that computer, and then you're busy doing other things and it doesn't know what to do.
That answers my other question.
Yeah.
Okay, is there any way to, when we hit that post button, to just have a pop-up screen saying post running, do not touch your computer, and then when the macro is over, the last thing it does is take that off?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't give us an option for personalized messages. If we were in Excel, it does, but not in GP. Yeah, you'll just have to get used to it. But I will say it's just a training thing. You'll get used to not doing it on there. The other double check for the person in the morning. So whoever's job it's going to be to come look at that computer if you go and leave like you were talking about. Two things. Number one, it should be back at the home screen with no error messages. Number two, notice this open invoices here. Now, open invoice stack shows me all the invoices that didn't post. Now, you might have reasons that you have invoices out here. One of those are going to be holds. So all those, Mike, that you're holding, if they were in the invoice format, not in order. If they were in order, they'd be over in another stack. But if they had already transferred to invoice, then somebody went over their credit limit, you're going to see this as an invoice. If RoadNet moved it, you moved it in RoadNet to the next day delivery. Those you would see out here. So I'm going to click on this open invoices unposted. And I'm going to sort by requested ship date. I should not see anything, and we usually have a hold column, so we'll make sure that hold column is in here. But I should not see any invoices for tomorrow, or for today, because now this is the next morning. So I shouldn't see any 629 invoices out here that are not already on hold. And actually, you shouldn't see any 629 invoices because I lied. We're running that process for you, like I talked about earlier, that moves your hold invoices a day ahead, or a day to the next delivery day along with your RoadNet invoices. So the system would have already done that, and so you shouldn't see anything out there for 629. If you saw that stack of paper and it was 1,000 invoices, you don't even have to open it to know it didn't post. So something is awry. If you're seeing 10 or 15, don't hit the panic button. 10 or 15 are fine. We'll see what those are. Click it open. If it's other dates, everything's groovy. No problem at all. If it's not, and you see a whole bunch for, those 15 are for today, then make sure that gets escalated to someone, your internal person, probably Mike or Paula, and then we'll help them, know how to resolve the issues. Now, if one of the horrible, tragic things I talked about before that could cause a post not to go successful, which is you lost network, you lost power, you did something like that, you will have all these invoices. If you lost power during the time it was posting, or if you lost network connection during the time you're posting, it will, number one, have a ton of invoices open. Number two, it will kick your batch to what's called batch recovery. This is located under Microsoft Dynamics GP button, Tools, Routines, Batch Recovery. What we'll show in here is the batch ID of whatever got kicked there, which will be, in your case, they're on trucks, so it'll start with a truck number. And those will all show here. And what we have to do is mark them and continue. Now, it won't kick it till batch recovery until that person logged out. So for instance, I'm logged in as SA. That's my user ID. If I lost network connectivity, I would either see an error up on screen, or it would be in some other screen depending where in the process it lost power or network connectivity. And I would see that my invoice stack was huge. I would log out as that SA user, and I would log back in as SA. When I log back in as SA, the same user who started the posting, so I'm going to log out as them if it's still up. If your computer totally lost power, it's not going to be up. But I would log back in as the user who started the posting. And it will pop up a box to me that says, your batch has been moved to batch recovery. And you hit OK. Now, you don't have to be that user to...
Exit tones are off.
You don't have to be that user to go and actually process it out of batch recovery. You've just got to be that same user that started it to kick it and put it into batch recovery. Does that make sense?
Well, but maybe I'm not understanding something.
Yeah.
That sounded contradictory. Can you go through it again?
Yeah, sure. You don't have to be. So if I'm the user that started the posting, okay?
Yeah.
And something happens in between there, if I log out and log back in, I need to log back in as that same user, and then it will kick it to this batch recovery.
Okay.
Now, the reason that's a safety precaution, because what the system is saying, that user started that process, maybe they're still going and you don't know it. So it doesn't want to let you get to those batches because they've been marked by those users as doing something. So me logging back in, stop, Control-Alt-deleting my session if, the session is still open. Obviously, if power is out, the session's not going to be up. But if I log back in, then it says, oh, you were the user that had those batches marked. And I know that I didn't finish those batches. So I'm going to kick them up here to batch recovery. Then you could log that user out and log in as yourself if you have security to batch recovery, and then you could take it out of batch recovery. It doesn't have to be the same user that started it to get it out of there.
I see. So it won't pop up if you don't log in as the user.
That's right.
Started, but you can still recover it even if you're not the user.
That's right. You're exactly right.
Right. I got you. Okay.
Yep.
Never mind. I'm good now.
Now, if I have 5 batches in here, I just hit mark all. And then I just hit continue, and it will literally pick up the posting process exactly where it left off. It's a magical process that GP does. It doesn't corrupt your tables. It doesn't, typically do anything really harmful. 1% of the time, depending on when you have a crash, do we ever actually have to get involved. Everything else, GP handles, cleans up its own mess nicely itself. You just have to kick it back out of here to let it continue posting. Now, if for some reason there was a problem with the batch, like somebody, I'll give you the most common one. Paula and Mike closed the fiscal period for July, and you're now starting to post invoices because the delivery date is in July, and nobody opened the fiscal period. That will kick it to batch recovery because it doesn't know that when it's doing its posting, and then when it tries to post, the system's like, you can't post to a closed period. And it won't say that. It'll just be like, oops, problem, and it'll kick it to batch recovery. Same kind of concept. Sometimes you have to log in to get it to go over there as the same user who started it. But then when you go to process it and mark all and hit continue, it won't just finish it. It will literally pull up it'll come back into this window. It won't leave. And then we can look at the batch and run an edit list, and it will tell you the error in the edit list. So again, those are minor things that happen, but you'll find we'll work with you during your first year on Infusion because you won't have those things happen very often. But you'll run into a couple of those scenarios probably per year. And as we work with you during that year, you'll get familiar with what those things are so that you can handle them independently. Make sense?
Corey,
Okay.
can I ask a question? I just want to back up one bit.
Sure.
When you first hit that post button, and you say don't touch anything because, the whole file macro got to run in the background. How long before anything appears on the screen? Because what I'm just afraid of is where, like, if we hit a button, and then we say, well, maybe I didn't hit it because maybe I missed it when I clicked, and we click on it again.
Yeah. No, it'll start doing things. It'll start doing things almost immediately. When you hit the button, wait like, 30 seconds or something. It does have to call up the procedure.
So
But
could we not see anything
yeah.
happening?
Yeah, you might say, gosh, I didn't see it. Now, the other things it'll say is up here at the top, you'll see that it'll say something.mac. So you'll know that it's running a macro when it does it. But the first thing it does, the steps I showed you, is really the first things it does. It goes to your date, it moves the date to tomorrow, and then it will go to this navigation pane. So if you wait a minute or two, yeah, and you're not seeing something, then you know what something's wrong.
Okay, yeah, you're gonna see screen action.
Pretty fast.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, if you don't see something within a minute or two, then you probably.
Yeah. Good.
Thank you.
Yep.
That Mac up there, I don't know.
Any other questions?
We're good?
Good. That's it for end of night. Once you're done posting and you leave it and the morning person comes and checks it, that's really all there is to the whole process. So that's routing, picking, and loading and printing your invoices and posting. Now, some of the open items I have for this section to feel good for you to start clicking buttons. On our side, Matt is going to set up your home screens with the things that you see on my home screen to the list of people that he got, and he'll do that today or tomorrow and then send your team a notification of that. Also on our side, and this isn't Matt's fault, this is my fault, we have sent you copies of the invoice, but I haven't sent you a copy of the military part that prints out with your invoice. I've got to look at that. Me and Matt were working on that before last week, and then I didn't get back to it last week. The invoice register is going to be emailed to you, and Matt actually has a sample of that, but he has not sent that to you, Mike, yet. I have to do a little more look at that, and I wanted to do a little more testing, and then I'll send that to you. So those are the open items on our side, besides the couple little things I mentioned during this training session. On you guys' side, the biggest open item for you is confirming those pick tickets. The one thing I don't want to happen is on Go Live,
We're gonna,
doing pick changes.
we're gonna do it right after the meeting.
Good, perfect. And I do expect, our hope is that you get as close as possible to the changes, and then when we do your day of order testing, you'll get a big volume to test with, and that will also help you see if there's any tweaks or changes. But if we can try to get the majority of the changes first, it'll really help you picture what that is. Be critical. Please don't say, well, it's good enough. If you don't like it, now is the time to change it. I get less gracious as our timeline goes on. So now I'm being very gracious, and I want you to make all the changes you want. Next time you hear this, you're gonna hear the if you have to make changes, and then at Go Live I'm gonna say only if it is preventing you from doing business. Do we want to do changes? So I will get less gracious, but now's the gracious one. So pick tickets, manifest, replenishment, all of those are on your list to confirm. Invoices, I know you've looked at that, you've already given feedback, but for sure, anything to do with your invoice changes, now's the time to do that. You already mentioned your printer setup is moving, so that would be an open item for this list, so that's positive. And then I know we talked earlier, you're getting RoadNet to move on their test environment. Our next step for that is just to get ready. But I will say, I feel good, we've got all of our stuff ready for you. So that's very positive. Now we just have to get your side ready so that we can run test files back and forth.
No, I was just gonna say, once all that posting happens, so we come in the morning and everything's fine, is that when we would run all of the reports that we would need, like the sales registers and stuff like that?
The invoice register will be automatically emailed out, and but you can run it manually if there was a posting problem. But outside of that, we're going to assume the posting's going to go through right, and it'll just schedule to email. All of your most of your reports, I would assume. Now that doesn't mean it has to happen, but on most of our distributors, and I know we're going to meet for our sales reporting design meeting next week again. Most of people have us just auto email the reports, especially since you guys will be posting before midnight. We'll automatically run the inventive interface. We'll automatically run email burst reports. We'll automatically run everything at a set time. The only thing you would have to worry about is if you wanted to rerun something, you could manually run that. Or if it was sometimes I want to run it report, where you don't want us to auto email it, yes, you could run them then.
Okay.
Good. Any other questions about the end of night process?
Yeah, how late is John gonna be here? I'm trying to get a feel for how many hours the entire process takes.
Yeah, I don't know how long your routing process takes. A lot of my, distributors your size, they can do routing them pretty quickly. But I don't know how long your routing process takes. The printing of the pick tickets, again, it kind of based on how many tickets and volume, but I wouldn't think that would take over 10 to 15 minutes at most. I would think you're talking about. So that's 10 to 15. I'm sure your routing process isn't going to take much more or much different than what your routing process takes now. Invoice consolidation, I already told you that's about 10 minutes, probably. Printing your invoices, I'm not really sure. If you use both printers, how many routes do you run per night? 30?
30.
Yeah, so you're doing 15 routes per, that could maybe be 15 to 20 minutes to print invoices. Hey, you don't have to separate them. That's a positive. So, it looks like if I add that time up, you're looking at maybe an hour. That's padding it. Hour after you're done routing.
I just didn't want John getting out of here, at 11 o'clock every night.
No, I don't think so. Now, I would give you this expectation. The first week is going to be slow, so be prepared for that. Just because,
we get that.
Yeah, we're going to stop you, and then you'll be probably a little slower for the first while, but then you should pick up. But
Okay.
a day of orders, when we do your day of order scenario testing, that should give you a good visual of how long it's going to take to do each process with real volume. Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
All right then.
Wonderful. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate your time. Have a wonderful rest of the day.
Thanks, Corrie. You too.
Bye.
Take care.